Hi all, I have an amazingly instructive attacking game to show you today. This features attacks against the Fianchetto, or Fianchetto if you'd rather pronounce it like that. So let's have a look at this game. Kurt, Paul, Otto, Joseph, Richter. You might know him better for the Richter-Rauser attack variation in the Sicilian defense. That's like with a bishop g5 after the main Sicilian. And there's also in the d4 opening, there's the Richter Verasov attack. You can check him out on Wiki. So Richter was playing white. Leonardas Abramavicius was playing black. So he's a very, very strong Lithuanian player. He actually, here's a bit of trivia for him. In 1950, he tied first, actually, in the Lithuanian Championship. So two really great players with great culture and great achievements behind them. Let's have a look now at this game. Kurt played d4. We have d5, knight c3, knight f6. There's a little controversy actually at chessgames.com of the exact move order, but we do reach this position. The move order is a bit disputed. We do reach this position in the French defense, bishop e7. Now white volunteers the dark square bishop. Bishop takes f6. We have knight f3, knight d7, bishop d3, black castles, and white retains the option of castling queenside here by playing queen e2. This is the sort of thing I love to play. It adds a lot of spice to the position. Opposite side castling games are often a lot more fun. You can get a lot quicker wins sometimes. Black strikes in the centre, c5. This does seem to be a very logical move to try and put pressure on the diagonal if white's not going to take on f6. And in fact, white played a very, very clever move here, which shows the great priority being put on attacking the opponent's king. In fact, for 200 points, can you guess what white played in this position? So 10 seconds for 200 points. White to play here. What would you play here? Okay, just castle. Yeah, you don't want to give black too much piece activity or semi-open c-file. Your king's there. So in fact, it's better to treat it as a pawn sacrifice. If we think in terms of win probability over material, this is going to really help, because win probability, okay, we go a pawn down, but our win probability here is probably increased dramatically. Okay, you could argue, well, black's still got that c-file, but it's going to take more time to unravel anyway. So here we can go straight for an attack. An alternative here of giving up the bishop is leading into, for example, c3, king b1. Here there's a bonus, that d-file pressure. This is very, very useful when you do play h4. This is very, very dangerous for black, basically. There are things like this happening with a very strong h-file attack. So even though the Fianchettoed bishop exists, things like this, bishop takes g6, looking at d7, there's nasty stuff that awaits for black in those variations. So bishop takes d4 seems rather silly. So anyway, c takes d4. We have a really aggressive move here in this position. Pretty instructive actually already. Guess what white plays in this position? Okay, already thinking, in a way, this move already has an idea of thinking about the black king's escape squares, potentially. It's g4, because if a pawn ends up on g5, and black later has a Fianchettoed bishop, you know, the pawn is usefully controlling on g5, f6 and h6. So this is actually a very interesting move in many respects. We have g6 here, now h4, bishop g7, and now h5, and this is going to open up the h-file rather than have a form pawn. After rook e8, white is more interested in this particular scenario in opening up the h-file. So h takes g is played. After h takes g, we have this sealing move, g5. It looks like a nice sealant for the f6 and h6 squares. And also, you know, the possibility of knight f6 is now increased, or using these squares generally. That pawn's also a hook later, potentially. We have e5 being played, and now another very clever move, very, very logical. Guess what white plays here for 200 points? Okay, yeah, start to double, even though the bishop looks as though it's, you know, a big guardian of the position, and black, you know, looks as though they might reinforce all the squares. Appearances can sometimes be deceptive. We have knight f8, so it seems super, super solid, but we have our battery here, rook dh1, bishop f5, and now white played a move which is absolutely brilliant in intent. It's a wonderful move for what happened. Engines don't agree with it, and in fact I'm hesitant to spoil the story of the game. But if you can guess the next move, I'll give you 200 points for what was played, and also 200 points for the engine move as well, actually, to be fair. So white to play here. What would you play here? Okay, it's a very logical and pleasing and aesthetic move that is played here. Queen f1. It fulfills quite an interesting purpose. And you might think, well, hold on a sec. The queen's not looking for h3, and surely there's still a lot of shuffling to do here. Like, if the queen wants to be this triple battery, the Alexine's gun, it's going to take quite a while. Now, the engine suggestion move, by the way, is knight d2. And there's a lot of analysis I've done here. And in fact, I'll put all this analysis just in the PGN in the description for you to check out. Apparently, this might be technically superior to this queen f1. But the aesthetics of what happened are absolutely stunning. I don't want to spoil that for you for what's coming up. Black played a mistake, rook c8. It was an emergency situation already. It turns out black's best try was actually to take here and vacate the possibility of f5 to give the king, you know, a potential escape to f7. You can see that idea in the analysis. But black played rook c8. Now here is the wonderful stuff. Absolutely wonderful. Well worth remembering this pattern against the seemingly solid as bricks defensive knight and bishop, that fianchetto position. So this is why this is such an instructive game for an attacking a fianchettoed bishop or a fianchettoed bishop. White to play here for 500 points. Can you guess what white plays in this position? I'll give you 10 seconds to pause the video. Okay. Richter Rosa, he sounds, that sounds quite sharp, and Richter's pretty sharp as well, as in Kurt, Paul, Otto, Joseph Richter, because he played a super sharp move here, offering the rook, taking out that key to black's defences on the dark squares. This whole dark square colour complex is shielded right now with that bishop. If that bishop is taken out of the equation, you will expect the dark square impact to be quite high. So we have that bishop having to take there, and now two rooks have been expended for getting rid of that fianchettoed bishop. Is it worth it? Here black does take there. If king g7, that doesn't help matters. Queen h1, this position is diabolical. Checkmate, for example. So that doesn't help matters. And here, by the way, if queen takes, then we just play this and take the queen. That's diabolical. So black really has to take the rooks. And now we play not queen h3, that's guarded by the bishop, but queen h1 check. Black plays knight h7. The thing is, if king g8 here, then knight f6 check is very strong. And we'll be getting a form pawn after queen takes. Because if the king moves here, if the king moves here, then you can see that pawn's a great hook for the h6 square. Queen h6 is checkmate. And if the queen really has to take, we get this mega form pawn. And after rook c8, bishop takes is actually devastating. If black had taken the time to do this, then queen h6. And after this spite check, how is black dealing with queen g7? Well, then knight g5. And then it's toast for black here. Yeah. Because there's no way of defending against queen h7, queen h8 mating. So basically, knight h7 was tried. And then we have knight f6. We have king g7. Here, if queen takes f6 in this situation, then this is again very, very strong, similar to before. The idea is queen g1 check. And if king f8, queen g7 is checkmate. So this is just hopeless. So, okay, so knight f6, king g7, and guess what white plays here? Find a little finesse. So at move 23, a knockout killer move. What would you play here for 100 points if I give you 10 seconds? Okay, don't let the king escape. Play first this check to make sure the king isn't wriggling out to f8, much more accurate than queen takes, because the king could wriggle out and live another day. So no, you just play queen h6 check, driving the king back to the corner. Black resigned here. A super crushing defeat, and a vivid impression is made that really, if the key to black's defences are on the dark squares with the fianchettoed bishop, get rid of that key and then you can unlock basically the position for your attack on those dark squares. The key to the defence is the fianchettoed bishop. Take it out. Exploit those dark squares around the king. That seems to be the moral of this little story. You can check out detailed analysis of this game, as I mentioned, in the description PGN I'll give, if you want to check that out. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. It's one of the many instructive game examples given in that wonderful Art of Attack chess course, which is now an online interactive course with plenty of instructive content by Ginger GM, Simon Williams. He's a fantastic attacking player in his own right. You might want to check that out at Kingscrusher TV/Art of Attack. Hope you enjoyed this one. Comments, questions, likes, subscribes, all appreciated. Thanks very much.
Every battle is won by preparation. We've taken one of the most popular chess books ever written and rewired it for the modern player. The Art of Attack. Learn with Chessable's state-of-the-art move trainer technology, presented by myself, Grandmaster Simon Williams. I'll talk you through 29 hours worth of educational video content. From attacking the uncastled king, bishop sacrifices, diagonal attacks, and classic pawn storms. Paint your opponent's king into a corner with the Art of Attack.